Okay, so we're back for our next chapter of the Pep Comics number 3. Now, we completed the cover in the last couple of chapters, and I'm happy with the results. It was in multiple pieces. We were able to assemble it and get everything back to the way, as close as possible as we could be. The amount of tape that came off of that cover was extraordinary. It was in multiple pieces, and now it's in a singular piece and reassembled with proper conservation techniques using the Japanese paper. So let's move on to the wraps. Now, the main wraps really weren't in bad shape, but what we do have is this first wrap. Now, this particular wrap is the one that was actually stuck to the cover through the tape. Several pieces were torn out. It was glued in such a manner that I had to remove pieces from the tape and the cover to be reinstalled. And the two main pieces that I have here, and if you're doing this sort of work, this is something, get a piece of tape, label it, T and B, top and bottom. Underneath these are the staples for the book and in their proper orientation. So the piece that's missing here is this right here, and there's another piece to it right there. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to reinstall the piece. Now, I always do, and I always recommend when we're doing this type of work to work from the back side of the spine, which is what we're going to do. However, this piece came off of the surface, so we're going to have to put it in place here, hold it, and then turn the book over, and then use the Japanese paper on the back side in this piece here. And all the words are here, so we're not losing any part of the book. Now, today we're going to be using, normally I use wheat paste, we are going to be using methyl cellulose. That's a clear liquid. It works great. I don't use it on the covers because it doesn't have the tensile strength that the wheat paste has. But we're going to use this today, and we're going to do two things. We're going to fix this. We're going to be using a tan Japanese paper. As you can see here, it matches quite well, and with the methyl cellulose it should blend in quite nicely. Up here, this is a missing piece, so we're going to have to address that one a little bit differently. So what I'm going to actually do is build up a section from the back side forward and fill that in so it's structurally sound, and will maintain the thickness of the paper. That usually takes about 4 layers of the Japanese paper. This is a 5-gram Tengu-jo paper. Kozo. I always get that backwards. I'm sorry. But we'll get this installed, and let's move on. Okay, we've got the page wet, and we're going to start working with it now. Now, what we've got here, now I'm working on the front side because this is where we're going to have to place the piece, and I want you guys to be patient with me here. I've got to get this just right. Now I'll show you in the close-ups. There's printing on this side and there's printing on the back side, and aligning this so yeah, it's already starting to get a little dry, so I'm going to give it a quick misting here. So we got to keep this wet when we're working with these things. Okay. So what we want to do, and I've got the forceps here, and we don't want to tear anything. This piece is so delicate that I'm going to have to get some sharper forceps on this. So what I'm dealing with is very similar to a needle tip. So we want to lift the paper and we want to manipulate it in such a way it's got a slight tear to it. Now I'll hold this up a little bit, hopefully this focuses, but it has a ever so slight tear right here at the bottom, so I'm trying to very carefully manipulate it into position. So it's got to look just right. Okay, that lines up fairly well. Now I gotta twist this ever so slightly so all the black lines line up. Okay. Okay, that looks really good. All right, so I think we got that down. I'm going to take a really closer look here. Yeah, I'm happy with all the alignments here. Now we're also going to do, since this is the primary wrap, the first wrap, along with doing all the patch here, we're also going to reinforce the spine from the back side, because just around the staple hole area, so the rest of the paper look fairly solid, really. So I'm not too concerned, but we don't want the staples to pull through the cover nor any of the wraps. So generally what we do when we take a book like this apart and we recondition the paper is the weakest point of any book is going to be right where the staples go through. So for strength, we'll reinforce the spine on the back side of the primary wrap, and usually the middle wrap suffers the most because that's the one that gets most of the flexing with the staples. Okay, so I'm happy with everything so far. I do have this other piece. Now, I had originally thought that it was part of this, but I do think it is still, but from the back side. So once we get this, we'll cover this back up with the Hollytex. We're going to get it wet some more, and then we're going to flip it over. And this is just water that I'm spraying on it. In fact, it's literally tap water. A lot of people are going crazy saying you got to use distilled water, things like that. The minerals and things that are in your tap water, for what the type of work we're doing, this is going to get wet again, and then it's going to, once we get the methyl cellulose on and paint it in, then we're going to go ahead and heat dry it in the press like we do the rest of the wraps, and I'll show you that in a little bit with the end results. Okay, so we flip this over now. I still have that one piece that I'm not too sure about. So we're working in this area right here, and I noticed when I looked at it there was a little bit of yellow to this piece. So I'm going to look very closely and see if I can find said yellow. And as far as I know, yeah, it looks okay. This is the back side, by the way, right where my fingertip is, and the alignment looks perfect, so I'm really happy about that. But I'm just literally not seeing this piece, so I'm not sure. I might see it after the book's dry, but I don't see anything that matches this. It's got a little hair of yellow to it, and there's nothing in here that's yellow that is missing any piece. So I'm going to just set that aside for right now. We'll go ahead and do the repairs here with the methyl cellulose and the brown paper. So looking from the back side, I can see where our damaged area is right here. So let's take and open up the methyl cellulose. I'm going to go ahead and just get this wet one more time. I'm here in California. It's not that it's dry, but I don't have a lot of humidity in the house. So it is, the paper dries out fairly quickly, and we don't want that to happen. All right, so let's take some of this. We'll get our brush wet with it. And methyl cellulose is just very similar to wheat paste, but it's also an acceptable conservation tool. One of my colleagues in the conservation community uses nori paste, which I don't have any experience with, but I'd like to try it out. I'm just not sure. So we'll check that out maybe in the future. Okay, so we've got that. So I'm going to go ahead and start shredding some small pieces to go over the patch. All right. Okay, so I think I got a decent look at this thing. It's very difficult to see from the back side, but I think I got it right here. Just lay this down. I don't want to put in any more than I have to, so I'm going to tear off a little bit of this excess here. Okay, this looks good. I did put a little light coat down first, just like a tack coat. So we'll go ahead and paint this out like we normally do. Remember, we always brush away from the center. This helps the threads of the Japanese paper to blend in. Now the methyl cellulose will dry perfectly clear. That's one huge advantage of it. Okay, so I'm very happy with that. I think I'm going to reinforce these two staple holes here, just with a smaller, thinner piece, just to be on the safe side, as they say. I've had these where I've put everything back together, it looks great, and all of a sudden the staple pulls through, and at that point you're stuck, and you got to basically start over, which calls for removal of any of the reinforced Japanese paper, basically taking everything back down to zero and for a full redo. So that's what I'm trying to avoid here. Okay, so this is looking great. I'm going to do a switch here so I can work on the upper staple holes on the back side. Let me just put a little bead of down. There we go. Now I'll take another piece here. Now remember, the cover has already been reinforced, so I don't find any need to put multiple layers of extra paper down. So this again is just also reinforcing, but we're just reinforcing this one wrap. Okay, looks good. All right, now I want to address this this notch right here. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this, and you notice I'm go ahead and paint this right onto the Hollytex. Now the wheat paste and methyl cellulose, neither of which stick to the Hollytex. So that allows us to go ahead and let things dry in the heat press under pressure. And some of you said, well, what do you mean under pressure? Well, what I do is I will take this in, whenever you have a wet wrap like this, when it dries, like anything else, it's going to contract. And what we don't want is for it to contract and shrink and pull. So rather than let it do it naturally, I like to control how the thing dries. So if you basically crush the wrap under pressure in the heat press, and I do it at 170 degrees for about 20 minutes. I keep adjusting my technique till I get something that I like, and for me that seems to be the sweet spot. So I'm going to just build up 4 layers right here in this notch, which would basically be a good substitute for the missing section. It's a little heavy, but that's okay, it'll come out. And most of you know that when I work with I generally work with wheat paste, mainly for the strength, but it has some downsides, which like beading, you have to heat it. There are a lot of cellulose. You just gotta apply it at the, at the right place. Okay, so we'll do this one more time, and we will have a solid fill right here. It's a little bit transparent right now, but once it's dry and we trim it all up, I'm not trying to make the whole thing disappear. That's impossible. But what I'm trying to do is strengthen the page so it doesn't tear anymore. And this is a vital page, as it's the first wrap, the primary wrap as we like to call it. Okay, so we get this all brushed out. It's nice and straight, and I'm happy with everything. Okay, so next item of business is to take the Hollytex and close this back up right on top of everything, and we're going to get this wet one more time in the areas that we've been working. And you've seen me do this before. I just use my finger to smear everything around, and a little bit of pressure flattens it all out. Now we are working from the back side, so if you remember, we are right about here is where we put our patch. So again, I'll do this. All right, so let's flip this over one more time. And this is the front side. And as you can see up here, it's a little bit darker. It should blend in a little bit once we get everything done. So everything looks really, I'm really happy with the way this came out. This repair here, we'll take a look at it. Once it's dry, we're going to put it under the microscope. And we'll look at the patch and see how it came out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dry this now. In case you were wondering, well, I was going to dry it off camera. I'll just show you. All I'm going to do is take my simple brawny paper towels, and I'll do a primary dry, and then it will be dried again in the heat press. And all I do is lay these down across the top. And what we want to do is pull the wall. Whoops, I'm sorry, didn't mean to bang the camera there. All we want to do is pull all the moisture out of the wrap through the Hollytex. And you notice, bang, it's right there. It looks like it's got that nice faded look to it, which is exactly what we want. I'll flip this one more time here, and we'll do this again from the back side. And granted, this page is still wet. It's damp. It's quite damp. So we'll move it to the heat press, and I'm not going to leave you guys out of the loop. I'll come back and we'll separate the Hollytex from the wrap, and we'll look at it together when it's on.